You ever have one of those moments where the world just tilts under your feet and there's not a damn thing you could do about it? That's how it started for me, the day Sarah got her diagnosis. 22 years married, high school sweethearts. Two kids now grown, we'd finally started talking about what came next. Open up the kitchen, put in that sunroom she'd always dreamed about, the kind with a bay window looking right out onto the garden she spent half her life planning. She'd point at her little sketches and laugh. Someday when we're old, I'm going to sip tea in there and yell at birds. But life doesn't wait for someday. It just barrels right over you. When she passed, the house felt like a tomb, air thick and heavy, her blanket still on the couch, mug on the windowsill. Grief isn't a wave, it's a damn riptide. You're walking down the cereal aisle, and suddenly you're drowning. 6 months in, I found her old sketch pad. Pages of redesigns, measurements, paint swatches, even notes on what kind of bird feeder she wanted in the corner. I realized I couldn't bring her back, but maybe I could bring her dream to life. Not as an escape, but as a way to live beside the grief. So, I got the permits, hired Mason, an old friend from my Army days, and got to work. Legal, safe, exactly like Sarah wanted. What I didn't plan for was the HOA. Welcome to Sycamore Grove, where they measure your grass with a ruler and treat mailbox height like the law of the land. It used to make sense: structure, safety, all that. But things change, and some folks get addicted to power. That's how you end up with someone like Karen Madsen running the place, all platinum blonde bob, and the resting face of permanent disapproval. She ran the architectural committee like it was her own fiefdom. First day of demo, she's there on my driveway, arms crossed, clipboard out, just oozing authority. "I don't recall approving this," she snipped. "Didn't need your approval. The city's already signed off," I said, probably too polite for my own good. That was my first mistake. See, Karen didn't let go. That afternoon, there's a warning letter slid under my door. Unapproved modification, $500 daily fines if you don't stop. I laughed at first. Then it got real. She drove by slow, took pictures, grilled the crew about their licenses, warned neighbors my build would tank their property values. She even tried to inspect the concrete mix, like she knew a damn thing about construction. Mason, usually unflappable, started muttering, "Is she for real?" I filed a formal complaint. Useless. Karen had the board in her pocket, and the rest just nodded along to avoid her wrath. You know the type. But I kept at it. Hung Sarah's sketches up right where the new cabinets would go. Each time Karen found some new way to get under my skin, I just stared at those drawings and remembered why I started. I wasn't building for me, I was building for her. Only Karen wasn't done. One morning, right as the sun's coming up, I hear heels clicking on the driveway. She's got her badge, her phone, and a fake smile. "I'm going to need the job foreman, please." Mason steps up, all 6 feet of him, wiping dust on his jeans. "That's me." "Problem." She launches into bylaws and approvals, threatening to call code enforcement. "We passed inspection 2 days ago." Mason fires back. She doesn't care. She slaps a violation sticker on the porta potty and declares it a utility structure visible from the road. That's when I told her, calm as I could manage, "Karen, I'm recording all of this now. You keep it up, it's harassment." She smiled that knife-edge smile and promised to see me in court. What followed wasn't just a battle, it was a siege. Construction cones disappeared. Stop work signs showed up on my door, no city seal, just her signature font. One morning, Mason's truck tire was let down, just enough to cause a delay. Cameras caught a hooded figure moving in the dead zone between lenses. Subtle sabotage, always deniable. Neighbors started to avoid me. Some left snarky notes about dust. Others just gave me the side eye at the mailbox. Power, you know? Some people get a taste and just can't stop. That's when I flipped it. I filed a harassment complaint, this time with photos, video stills, and timestamp footage. Sent copies to the city and the county. Mason built a temporary fence to mark the property line, just to make the HOA's boundaries clear. The next day, Karen rolled up her SUV, parked way too close to the new trench. Mason told her to move. She just sneered and rolled her window up. 2 hours later, the ground she parked on soft, unsupported soil gave way. Her rear tire dipped, the SUV lurched, and a piece of the scaffolding slid down, crunching the roof. She jumped out, screaming, and blamed me on the spot. But I had footage. The city inspector sided with me, and suddenly, the board got nervous. But Karen? She doubled down, started forging official-looking letters threatening lawsuits, and sending her enforcer, Daryl, to mess with my supplies at night. Only this time, the neighborhood started paying attention. The board called a hearing, and let me tell you, I came ready. Red folder, every permit, every inspection, and a flash drive full of Karen's greatest hits. Trespassing, phony notices, sabotage, the works. Janet, the one honest board member, read through my stack and looked like she'd just seen the future. When I played the footage of Karen's SUV sliding into the trench after I'd warned her, the room went quiet, then people started whispering. You could feel the power shift right there. After the vote, Karen got suspended. For the first time in years, you could feel people breathe in Sycamore Grove. Neighbors who never spoke waved hello, even brought over baked goods. The board reimbursed part of my damages. Not a fortune, but enough to say we were wrong. Mason and I finished the sunroom big bay window, Sarah's garden blooming just like her sketches. The light hit the hardwood in the late afternoon, and for the first time, I felt like I'd kept my promise. Funny thing is, Karen stuck around, but her power was gone. She sent me one last note, handwritten, saying she was sorry, stepping down, getting help. I didn't need revenge. I just wanted peace, and I got it. The HOA rewrote their rules, ditched the anonymous fines and secret meetings. Janet took over, started hosting meetings in the park. The whole block changed. Kids played chalk on the sidewalks again. Neighbors brought food, not complaints. And me? I planted a cherry tree in the front yard, right where Karen used to say it would block the mailbox. Now it's the first thing you see, blooming with stubborn, beautiful defiance. Sometimes I still sit in the sunroom with my coffee, letting the morning light pour in, listening for Sarah's voice in the breeze. I know she'd be proud not just of the house, but of the fight it took to make it home again. You know what I mean? In the end, it wasn't about winning against the HOA. It was about showing everyone that when you stand up for what's right, sometimes the whole neighborhood learns to stand a little taller. Let me know what you think. Was I right to fight back? Have you ever had to take on power in your own community? Drop your story in the comments, because this kind of battle, it's never really over, is it? Sometimes it takes just one voice to start the conversation that you'd think that after the sunroom was finished, after Karen got knocked off her throne, life would just settle down, right? But grief, like power, has a way of hanging around in the shadows. Sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's just a whisper you hear late at night, washing over you when the house goes quiet. I got used to the silence, started finding peace in the rituals Sarah left behind. Mornings with her old mug, evenings watering the roses she planted, always a little bit lost, always a little bit found. The weirdest thing is the neighborhood changed more than I expected. For years, Sycamore Grove was a place where folks peeked through curtains, whispered behind hands, afraid of getting a letter taped to their door if they put out the wrong color flowers. Now, after Karen's fall, it was like someone had cracked open all the windows and let the real world back in. Ron, the guy who hadn't spoken to me in months, brought over a toolbox and a couple beers one afternoon, offered to help patch the foundation Karen's collapsing wall had torn open. Eileen baked a lemon loaf and left it on my porch with a note, "For new beginnings." Even the Thompsons let their kids play hopscotch all down the sidewalk, pastel chalk squares stretching right past the mailbox where Karen once staked her claim. But even with Karen's power gone, the mess she'd made stuck around. The city sent inspectors out, measured the slope, checked the foundation, and made it official I wasn't liable for a damn thing. Karen's old retaining wall, rotted through and flagged in a report years ago, had been a ticking time bomb. I handed her the final notice myself, standing on her porch as she opened the door with puffy eyes and trembling hands. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said, voice all cracked and thin. "That's the thing about control," I replied. "You never notice how heavy it gets until it drops on you." She nodded, eyes down, and took the paperwork without another word. I didn't feel angry. Not anymore. Sometimes justice feels like a punch. Sometimes it just feels like setting something down and finally walking away. Mason and I fixed the damage, rebuilt the edge of the sunroom's foundation stronger than before. The whole process took weeks, but every swing of the hammer, every measured board, it felt like a little more of Sarah's dream was coming back to life. Neighbors stopped by to check the progress, offering snacks, lending hands, just hanging around, talking about everything except HOA rules. The place didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt alive, hopeful, even. The next HOA meeting was different, too. Janet, now officially president, stood at the front and read out the new rules. No more anonymous complaints. Fines capped at $100 a day. Every complaint had to come with proof, and the board had to actually talk to people before threatening legal action. People actually clapped. Trina, the receptionist, even brought cupcakes. I sat in the back, arms folded, just taking it all in. When Janet called me up and handed me a little plaque, I didn't really know what to say. "This isn't just for me," I told the room. "It's for everyone who ever felt powerless in their own home." The applause that followed wasn't loud, but it was real. Karen? She faded into the background. Sold her old SUV. Hired a crew to fix her wall for real this time. A few weeks later, she left a handwritten note on my doorstep, saying she'd stepped down from the board and started therapy. For the first time, her handwriting didn't look angry, just tired. I never wrote back. She didn't need my forgiveness, and I didn't need her apology. Some things you just leave behind. But what really surprised me was how much the block opened up. Kids raced their bikes down the street. Families planted flowers. Mason and I held the first real neighborhood barbecue in years. Folks brought casseroles, cornbread, even karaoke. Ron belted out Sweet Caroline, so off-key we laughed until we cried. The kind of night that sticks to your memory, warm and messy, the way life should be. Someone said, "You changed this place, you know." I just shook my head. We all did. All it took was one person to stop rolling over. As for the sunroom, it became the heart of my days. Every morning, I'd sit in that bay window, the garden Sarah designed blooming right outside, her sketches framed on the wall, faded but alive. Sometimes, I catch a neighbor's kid staring in through the glass, mesmerized by the sunlight on the hardwood. I'd wave, and they'd grin and dart away. The best part? No more envelopes taped to my door. No more threats, no more fear, just quiet, just home. Janet kept her word. The board changed. They started hosting meetings in the park, bringing in food trucks, setting up little tents for the kids. The rules stayed. Sure, you got to have some order, but the spirit was different. It was about community again, not control. One day, Trina dropped off a newsletter at my door, handwritten at the bottom, still standing. "Thanks to you. On the anniversary of Sarah's passing, I bought a cherry tree with a gift card the board sent me as a thank you. I planted it in the front yard, right where Karen always said it would ruin the view of the mailbox. Now, every spring, it blooms so bright it looks like a little firework, a quiet reminder that some things are stronger than rules or fear, like memory, like love, like the stubborn hope that built this home in the first place." So that's it. That's my story. I fought for a promise, for a house, for a woman I loved, but more than that, I fought for the right to belong not just to a street, but to a community. You don't win every battle, but you win enough, and suddenly, the world feels lighter. I still miss Sarah every day, but now, when I sit in the sunroom with a cup of coffee and the light pouring in just right, I don't feel alone. I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. If you've ever had to fight back, if you've ever stood your ground when the odds were stacked, I want to hear your story. Drop in the comments. Let's start a conversation. Because sometimes All it takes to change a place is one person who refuses to give up and a neighborhood willing to remember what community actually means.